Hello and welcome to episode 139 of the Brass Junkies. I'm your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my co-host, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you today?
I'm leaving for 48 hours, and I cannot wait. Not that this isn't going to be life-changing.
You're so leaving? Are you a teenager?
I am so leaving. So yes, and I probably will come back.
We are actually excited for you to leave as well. So,
hey, trying to make everybody happy.
Doc, don't laugh. We haven't announced you yet. You're not allowed to make noise yet.
Ixnay.
The cat's out of the bag now. We are joined by a very special guest, a dear friend, and we're going to have an important conversation, and also we got some stuff to announce. We'll get to all of that, but this is a return guest. It is Michael Nickens.
Thank you so much, y'all.
Yeah, man. It's so good to have you. He goes by Doc Nicks. He goes by Doc Nickens. He goes by. Do you ever go by Michael Nicks? I've never heard that one.
Nah, Mike Nicks, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, Nicks, just Nicks.
Just Nicks. Yeah.
Just Nicks.
I like
just Nicks. Hashtag just Nicks.
Just Nicks. I like it. There we go.
Hey, can you pass me the just Nicks? No. The sun-dried tomato one.
So we are going to read our two spots right at the top here. I want to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz artist model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke model euphonium mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Very special thanks to the Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University in beautiful and sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which it was both of those things yesterday. So we had our day, so now we're doomed for the rest of the year. But if you're interested in finding out about what's going on at the Papert School, we have a link in the show notes, and that will take you to a page designed specifically for the listeners of the Brass Junkies to find out about the faculty and opportunities that there are at the Papert School. Very special thanks to Jim, Let's Keep It Brief Nova, for making that possible.
We wanted to let you know, just to remind you, that the Brass Junkies Academy Summer Workshop is coming up. If you use the offer code BJA10, then you get $10 off. This thing is June 22nd to 26th. It is available all summer long. You can watch it all live. You can watch it all after the fact. You can watch it live and after the fact. The whole thing is up through September 1st, which is pretty cool. And the whole thing is $99 with this offer code. It's not even $100, and you are going to get classes with Taga Larson, Mary Bowden, and Jose Sabaha on the trumpet, Jennifer Montone, J.D. Shaw, and Jeff Scott on the horn, Joe Alessi, Donna Parks, and John Lofton on trombone, Damondre Thurman, Hiram Diaz, and Gail Robertson on euphonium, and Carol Yonch, Pat Sheridan, and Richard White on the tuba. We're going to have a nightly hang for the whole week. So, yeah, there's going to be like 20 hours of content. It's $100. It's going to be amazing. So we're really looking forward to that. You can go to brassjunkies.academy, or you can head over to Pedal Note Media, and we've got links galore over there to get you there. So sign up before it happens, even if you can't make it live June 22nd to 26th.
We have a lot of announcements and things we're going to be talking to you about over the next few episodes, and I'm proud and excited to announce one of those things right now, and that is that the Pedal Note Media team has grown by one, and Abby Lannon is a social media phenomenon, actually. If you are paying attention to the Goofy Youth channels, she actually had a viral video that has crossed 1 million views. She is going to be handling not only social media for Pedal Note Media, but she is the workshop director for the Brass Junkies Academy Summer Workshop. So you'll probably be hearing more from and about her, and we couldn't be more excited to have her as part of the team. And she is a former student of mine, and so I'm doubly proud. So welcome, Abby. Thank you for being part of the team.
Yeah, Doc's got a video with like millions, plural, of views. So he's over here like, yeah, I'm not that impressed. But you know, we all got to start somewhere.
That's
right?
actually pretty timely. I mean, that's an arrangement of some Rage Against the Machine songs. Yeah, that's an interesting connection to make. I wasn't even actually thinking about that, but yeah, that was pretty hardcore. Yeah, that one rehearsal video has over 120 million views.
Do you want to do our social media instead?
Yeah. We just
I'm sorry to announce that Abby's stay with no.
we could edit it out, but this is good radio. So yeah, it's like she got the job and she lost the job before she even posted a thing. Yeah, there you go. So, well, I know you have 120 million views, but I have multiple videos that have 120 views, like at least a half a dozen.
You just got to keep making until you get to a million.
I just got to get a million. Yeah, I don't think that's
videos.
how that works, but oh goodness. So, all right. So the next announcement, which is really exciting, is that we've had an idea for the next podcast for Pedal Out Media for a very long time, and actually one of them, which is still going to happen, but we're not announcing it yet, is actually going to involve none other than Michael Nickens here. But we actually have one to announce right now, which is all Michael Nickens, and it is going to be called Doc Nicks Talks 2. And it is, why don't you tell us what this is going to look like, Doc?
The beginning of the idea started around, the experience of coming up through a classical music education and what kinds of unique things might, could I speak to because I had those experiences and could I speak to, a bunch of my friends and colleagues that might have had some similar experiences. But the longer we thought about it, the longer I thought about it, the longer we talked about it, the idea that if we can want to continue, there's lots of topics that are going to get farther outside of just the world of me talking to other brass players, or even just talking just to musicians, talking to other types of artists, talking to, building out the idea of the full context of what it takes to make all of the arts happen, and what kinds of connections we need outside of our just our musician friends, and so that leads us to Doc Nicks Talks 2, and you could say I'm going to talk to a person, or you could say I'm going to talk to a topic with a person, or something like that. But could it be something like this week Doc Nicks Talks to movies about puppies? I don't know, something like that.
Oh, Airbud. An Airbud 2. And
you know what I'm saying? We'll keep it in the music realm. So about Beethoven.
There you go.
Yeah, there was some low-hanging fruit there for Lance, which he just strolled right by. Went all the way to Airbud.
Airbud's way funnier than Beethoven.
I really appreciate you guys and your faith in me. I always enjoy our interactions, both professionally and personally, and the ability to find our way to this online space with podcasts, and the ability to reach a wide audience, the free form format where we can make it responsive to what's happening or what we're thinking and how we're feeling. All those things are just a breath of fresh air that I definitely needed and have wanted, and I think that going in this direction allows me to kind of grow into my next phase of professionalism, the kind of leadership I want to be able to show, and just interested in things that I want to learn as well. So I really appreciate you guys, and thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to be upfront about two things. You thanked us for having faith in you, and it's only Lance, but he's convinced me to just go along with it. And the other thing is that you said you're excited to get to a wide audience, that we don't have a wide audience. I just want you to be going in with your eyes wide open here, Doc. So yeah, I feel it. You can't communicate too much. So no, I'm just kidding. We've been very good friends for a very long time, and it's awesome. You're an important voice, and I think that this is going to be. Well, I know this is something that the world needs, and I can't wait to hear it. So, and we don't quite have we're already working on a logo, and things are happening fast and furious, but we will obviously update when we have a launch date for that. So we're excited. Yeah. So, all right. So we wanted to shift. We we're looking to listen and we're looking to learn here. And first of all, we're about to talk about like everything that is happening in the world relating to Black Lives Matter, relating to just all of the racial tension that is not new, in spite of the fact that it's suddenly all over social media and all over the news. And the first thing I want to say is, to be clear, is that we are not asking you in any way, shape, or form to speak on behalf of Black people, like to speak on behalf of, like, we are literally asking you for your views right now and your feelings and your thoughts. So unless you are an official spokesman of some sort that I don't know about, and if you are, then great. But I just want to be clear that I think sometimes those of us looking to learn can kind of be like, okay, well, tell us what you all are feeling. And it's like, no, I want to be very clear that that is not what we're doing. So, and you know that because we've talked about this kind of stuff so much.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I think, we find ourselves here today, just because of all the conversations that we've had, just standing around in the driveway while your boy ran up and down the street.
Yeah, we had like an hour long one. During quarantine, where Doc was at the top of his driveway, and and I was down on the sidewalk, and my son was actually being quite patient, but then he kind of lost patience. But it ended up manifesting itself in kind of a cool way, where he was making inventions where my wife refers to the minivan that I basically drive as my storage unit. And he was like bringing 2 or 3 things out at a time. And like, there was like a rubber mouthpiece pouch that he had like a drumstick of my wife's, who's a band director, sticking out of him. And he called that some sort of a doctor's tool, whatever. But yeah, it was funny. We were having this really serious conversation while my kid kept bringing ridiculous inventions to us. So, which, sums up my life actually quite well. So, I wanted to read a quote that you posted on your Facebook wall from someone named Doug Williford, who you said you don't know who that is, but this really spoke to me, and I thought this might be a place for us to kind of launch the conversation from. It says, if my wife comes to me in obvious pain and asks, "Do you love me?" an answer of "I love everyone" would be truthful, but also hurtful and cruel in the moment. If a coworker comes to me upset and says, "My father just died," a response of "Everyone's parents die" would be truthful, but hurtful and cruel in the moment. So when a friend speaks up in a time of obvious pain and hurt and says, "Black Lives Matter," a response of "All lives matter" is truthful, but it's hurtful and cruel in the moment. End quote. That really, that summed up what I've tried to convey. You're not gonna believe this, Lance, but I've tried to make that point and use like 10 times as many words and not summed it up as well. So, I mean, I'm not known for being long-winded, but Doc, talk to us about what that.
You're known for being continually winded.
Well played, Doc. Talk to us about that quote and why you posted it.
Sure, yeah. I think I came across it on maybe Mark Dover's page, or maybe Greg. I thought it was Greg McMahon, a friend of mine from Michigan. Anyway, I saw it and it resonated, and I just was, I was feeling in there. It's like, okay, so it's a little study in miscommunication, possibly. The idea that a person speaking up, looking for just I need a sign. I need a sign. It's like, especially if you're let's say you're in a situation where you're asking for some sort of affirmation, something. Even if you know the answer, it's still very helpful to hear it anyway, you know? And this is why, friends and family tell each other they love each other. And in so many ways, it's demonstrated throughout the entire day in infinite, countless ways. But it still has... it still enters our consciousness in a different way with, yet another objective, like, proof that my intent is to communicate that to you, and then also just the clarity of and the power of the ritual of it. It's like, we're gonna do this again. We're gonna do this again. You will be able to count on this. And then when you're in a situation where it has all moved into that realm of implication, then at some point you just got to ask. And even if you're only asking within your own mind, that's something. But then when you actually take the time to say it out loud and are met with such a dismissive, missing the point kind of answer, it can feel kind of helpless. And then sometimes the missing the point is because, like I said, because of miscommunication. The other party didn't know what was being asked of them in that moment. But sometimes there's suspicion in that moment of is the person asking trying to somehow edge out every other thing, trying to like jockey for some exalted or elite position. And in this case, you know, the way that quote spoke to me, what was being asked was, can you just shore me up? I'm dealing with something. Can you just shore me up that you're witnessing me, possibly you care about me, that I can look to you as some kind of supportive resource. And then, you know, just everything other kind of cartoon I've seen where a house is on fire and you know, the person whose house is burning and they're saying something like, my house matters, and then it's like all houses matter, but one house is on fire and that's not taken into account. And it's like the whole point of saying that out loud was trying to address the fire. So, you know, for me in my life, the most direct violent things that have ever happened was being assaulted by a skinhead in what was the name of that town? It was near Leipzig. Anyway, I was at a summer festival, and Heidelberg was the name of the, I don't remember. I can't remember the name of the town. Anyway, and I got on a bus, and yeah, a skinhead was with his boys and decided to show off, and I was literally only provoking him with my presence because it was one of those buses you could sit backwards, and I was sitting back facing the back of the bus, and he was in the front of the bus standing up, and walked to the back, yelled at me. One of my boys tried to get between. God bless you, Jeff Smith. And then skinhead reached across and cracked me right across the eye. I couldn't see. And then the blessing was I was able to stand up and walk off that bus. And some very supportive people were there with me. Yeah, Monica Ellis was with me on the bus. Yeah, that was something else, man. And then, you know, having to spend the rest of that summer walking around Germany, just sort of feeling like I couldn't hide. I couldn't, because I already couldn't speak and I couldn't read, and now I can't hide. I can't escape how I look. And I also remember that just saying that makes me think of it's a movie called Three Kings, and it's got Ice Cube and Clooney in it, and they're trying to like do a heist of some gold somewhere in Iraq, and when one of them gets captured and they're getting, you know, the sort of torture interrogation happening, this question of you know, what's the deal with Michael Jackson? You know, why does he basically hate himself so much that he tries to change how he looks? It's the gist of it, you know. And man, walking around Germany, not being able to change how I looked, I was such a liability because like I didn't know who else was feeling like that, you know. And the thought that my presence alone was offensive without me doing anything. And you know, so that's a major one, right? I was able to reclaim that going back to school. I was at Manhattan School of Music at the time, and yeah, it was kind of a neat moment. I was on the 1-9 headed north, and the skinhead uniform, you know, the military jacket and then the boots with the red laces and the, you know, the haircut and all that. And somebody literally dressed exactly the same as the dude who hit me across the face in Germany, we we were so close on the train that our noses were almost touching, like face to face. And I had the emotional reaction of the reminder of that fear from Germany. And then I remembered that I was on the 19 going north. And to fill in the blanks on that, we were headed towards Harlem. And every stop, yeah, I was definitely gonna have numbers. You know what I'm saying? I was gonna have numbers.
You have a way of putting things, man, which I love.
So I was able to reclaim that space, and instead of backing down from the bullying that was happening, I don't think that guy meant to find himself face to face with me. I think it just happened to happen, but he was going to stand his ground just because that's the posture, I guess. And so I did the same thing after I had that realization of where we were and where we were going. And then he turned his back to me, and I think he actually moved away from me. And that little victory was so important for me because I had to find my way back to feeling safe, just walking around. And even though I could possibly still be in danger from that individual, I wasn't powerless. So I had things that I could draw upon if I needed to. And in that case, it wasn't worth it wasn't worth it to him, clearly, to do anything. And I was just trying to make the moment end, but it did, that kind of thing could have led to me not wanting to get on the subway, for instance, but it didn't, because again, I remembered where I was. So again, big stuff, the small stuff is things like when I was in elementary school and heard Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh for the first time, and had never heard anything like that, right? That was what just happened to my consciousness, right? And all my friends and all of us wanted to be rappers and beatboxers, and so the interesting thing of the gathering of the young black fourth graders in the school bathroom, because the echo was nice in there, so we could beatbox and it sounded awesome. So it's like our first experience with reverb, because of this culture, right? And so that became sort of one of our hangs. It wouldn't be for long. You'd just be however long you had, and then you just mess around for 20 seconds even, and then that's it. But a bonding experience like no other, and then any kind of poetry assignment, and then the question is, can we rap? And I was so blessed to have so many teachers where the answer was invariably yes. But then the further along I got, the harder it was to find those experiences. The experience of being in a concert band has a lot of expectations, and I can fast forward from what I'm saying right now to now, where I'm trying to truly unlock the power of the composer, because even though I might utilize the aesthetic, the practices, the spirit of party music, I at least would like to think that I am in a position where I can still make a legitimate art piece for the concert hall, for recordings, and whether or not I incorporate modes of expression, types of styles, or whatever it is, I'm not sitting here trying to renounce all the training that I received, turn my back on people I respect and admire, and I'm trying to go with that thing where they said, instead of walking in, your hero's footsteps, why don't you seek what they sought? And so, once you start understanding the ideas of like crafting an identity and honoring a culture, then it's like I have to be honest and admit that, you know, from the, like I said, second or third grade or whenever, when I first heard rap music, I've wanted to be a rapper ever since. And then it took until, you know, the end of my doctoral work before I gave myself permission to rap in a recital. And God bless you, Fritz Kenzig. He again was all about it and supported me and actually gave me some very good advice on how to pull it off. The most helpful thing was demanding that I notate it. And the reason why I felt like that was so powerful is because now I can hand that piece off to people. Whereas before, you know, maybe somebody would listen, pick up on it, maybe want to do it, but it's like, it just, I had to clarify some things because of the demand to notate it. The beatboxing, the singing, and the rapping, all, and tuba playing, all is one piece. So that moment of giving myself permission, it like took some like unexpected courage. I didn't know how it was going to go, and could it really truly fit in this situation? And the answer obviously was yes. And then another really powerful moment was there's an improvisation group led by Ed Sareth, who's the author of a book called Black Music Matters, which is if you're interested in help and figure out what kinds of directions curriculum could be going in, should be going in, that is definitely a book worth picking up. I have it on Kindle, making my way through it. It is dense. It is lots of ideas. Strap in. It'll take you some time, but he's very clear and very insightful, and just so generous with his energy. So proud to be associated with Ed. And so that improv group allowed me to apply all this interest to something that it's like I got to work on my craft there. I got to do a ton of performing, trying to emulate Rozelle and Bobby McFerrin at the same time. And I guess John Sass, if you can like mix all that into one thing, that's I guess what I'm trying to go for. And all the people that not only gave me room to do it, but were super encouraging as I went. And then your helping me find my way onto the stage with Nas. First time I had performed with the National Symphony. First time I had performed on the stage of Wolf Trap. First time I had performed with Nas. All that happened in one act.
That
one
made me
single
so
thing.
happy.
Geez, and you were so right. You were making fun of how excited I was. You were more aware of it than I was, how excited I was. I was in the dress rehearsal literally crying as I was playing. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's proof that I'm pretty excited. And that was such an interesting concert too, because it was, you know, you could think of it as a Pops concert, I guess, but to me, it was a legit hip hop concert that happened to have orchestra.
Right.
And it's not like the orchestra was any small part. The orchestra had some very inventive, in fact, sometimes demanding parts to accompany. And but the reason why I want to, you know, I insist that it was squarely in the realm of hip hop, not exclusively, but it was definitely there, was because the audience participated like it was a hip hop show, standing up, dancing, rapping along with the entire album that we've all been, you know, playing basketball to since high school, or well, at least we have been. Yeah, and it was just a whole lot of, I knew this was possible from my dissertation recital with that one piece all the way to here. It's like these things can exist in the same space. And so then I start to backtrack and I say, okay, well, if it's taken till my 43rd year on the planet to see this and be a part of it, if I got into my late 20s before I was brave enough to do it on the concert stage, what is the holdup? If these things can work, and you know, it's like there's no finger to point at any single person there. That is a ton of imperceptible decisions that have been made about curriculum, about attitudes towards music, about what's for school and what should be left in your social life. Can those things connect or not?
It's systemic. It's the very definition of systemic.
So yeah. So luckily for me, I had some things going for me. One, from an early age, I noticed I looked different from the people around me. And so what that did was it allowed me to look at what was happening, what was being offered to me, and I always had the suspicion that it wasn't going to give me everything I was looking for. So I was willing to look outside of official channels to get my fix, to get my knowledge, to get, do my woodshedding or whatever it was. I also have to make sure I shout out David Porter, who, even though we didn't work on these types of things as I was coming up, he was my first tuba teacher, and we're still very much in each other's lives. But I always had wild ideas, even if it wasn't trying to bring this type of culture into my tuba playing. I always had ideas of transcribing things and mixing with technology. I had this digital workstation that I could like record an accompaniment and then accompany myself with the computer, and then it was like a prototype of what smart music's able to do, but just clunky because the synthesizer wasn't exactly made to do that, or it kind of was, but I was pushing it as far as I could push it, and he was always very supportive of it, and just kind of having fun, watching me have fun with it. So all of that, the encouragement to arrange, the encouragement to compose, and that's what I was trying to say about unlocking the power of the composer, because if I can include any kind of style into my palette, if I can have enough insight to give some sort of authentic shot at utilizing a certain convention or something like that, then I give myself the ability, if let's say if it's a larger piece, I have just given everyone the ability to go out and hire a musician that might not have been included in that orchestra because there was no call for that skill set. Well, I just made a demand for it. So somebody that would have never thought they'd be, for instance, in a symphony orchestra because they never thought there'd be a scratch DJ there. Well, this piece calls for scratch DJ, so here we go. And it goes so far beyond that. Of course, that's been done before, but I'm just saying, the more I can put those situations, bring those into reality, the more likely we can bring these things together. And just because we want to combine some things, it's not like we're trying to negate anything, erase anything. We're just trying to remind everyone that the world has more to offer, and these things can fit together. In fact, it's really fun to take on the challenge of putting them together. It's super satisfying when you're suspicious it might work, and then you're sitting there and your entire brain, I wish they took an MRI of me sitting on that stage performing with the NSO. The emotions and the connections I was making just in my own, different parts of my own psyche, and this is the way to get us into the next paradigm, right? This is the way we evolve our consciousness, by recognize. I'm sitting here talking all about all this, progressive, arts making, progressive music making, progressive bringing of people together, but I still founded a fife and drum corps at George Mason University, with the idea that those are practices. First of all, it's worth doing. I think the old guard is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, and we should be teaching that. And with the proximity, it's a no-brainer. The connection to the themes at the university, that all fits together very well. And then it's just interesting, and I haven't seen it places. And so, and why is that? Why is this clearly American practice isn't taught in music schools? Okay, so fife and drum, in some respects, is in the exact same space as a hip hop program is when it comes to higher ed, approaches to music. Great, fine. Well, I'll tell you what, I want to have those things. So I'm interested. I know there's plenty of people around me who are interested, as evidenced by we are able to get people to be in those groups. And then those groups are in demand for performances. So I'm so proud that the Green Machine houses, rappers, funk bands, New Orleans style brass bands, Civil War era brass band, Revolutionary War era fife and drum, and it's all one thing. And there's personnel that jump between all of them, and so it's like, is that all by design? It's like, yeah, I actually think so. I think the theory always is, if the things are made available, and people are able to understand, when you dive into these different buckets, right? Once you start to realize that they're all the same, then you can really appreciate what's different about them too. So, oh, right, I'm still playing in 2/2 or 4/4. It's just on this, on this instrument instead of that instrument, or the aesthetic is this instead of that, or whatever. And if you're jumping around, you can have that experience. But thinking about maybe a generation back, if there isn't critical mass of that type of thinking, if there isn't critical mass of diverse approaches to bring all those different points of view and expertise into a place, then the sameness, excuse me, if sameness is the theme of perpetuating the program, then it won't be long before the attitudes are those other things literally don't belong there. And so
that's profound. Say that again.
Yeah. So if sameness, if we're gonna keep reproducing the same repertoire, we're gonna keep hiring the same skill sets and the same expertise, same attitudes, it's inevitable that when difference shows up, it can so easily be undermined, and so it's almost, it's like I said, inevitable that it will be treated like it doesn't belong there. So yeah, I think I just said a lot. Questions?
Boy, that was great. There's a lot of directions that we can go with here, but you want to talk about something being wrong, is that you talked about how when you were in 4th grade that your passion was rapping, to the point where you'd sneak to the bathroom because the acoustics were good. And then you went all the way through until the end of your doctorate before you did any rapping of any kind in any kind of a formal setting in music school.
Yeah.
That's what an indictment. I mean, just on the system, that there's like no wiggle room there for like, what is this young man, in your case, in front of us? Like, what is his passions? And then even like, I'm not talking about 80% of it, but like 5% of your degree, none of the 3 had anything to. It's amazing. It's a real indictment on the system.
The place I found myself back at Manhattan School of Music. This is after I started working at Mason. I got to go up for a fair. A ton of music schools were at Manhattan School of Music. We all had our little table booth, and the young high school students are walking around, going table to table, and just finding out about the different schools. So there I am. I don't know if any kids from New York City know anything about George Mason University, but I definitely know that I'm one of not many brown faces greeting these young brown boys. And I started asking them questions about their music, and I made a discovery in that conversation, because they would say, I want to be a producer. And so I would dig into that a little bit to try to find out what they knew about that. And so I would use the idea of the producer as, oh, so you want to raise the money, hire the artists, rent the studio time. And I'd start talking about that kind of stuff. And they'd say, no. I want to make beats. And then I'd say, oh, you want to be a composer. And you would not believe the way that I just blew their mind. I remember this one kid, his eyes just lit way up, and he actually stood up straighter. He said, a composer.
What a gift you just gave that kid.
It was a spontaneous moment, and it came from, well, thank you for saying it that way. I was pointed in the direction of doing that by Frank Williams, who was my brass coach at the Cadets. African-American man, and amazing motivator, amazing teacher. And we're in a parking lot in who knows what, city, who knows what state, because when you're on tour, you don't know where you are. You're lucky to know.
We know that.
and so, yeah, so I'm sitting there in the warm-up arc in some, high school, parking lot or something like that. And there was clearly a black core there. And you could tell because of how many black boys came walking over to watch us warm up, all in their uniforms too. I don't remember what corps they were. And, we're going through our things. We're doing our exercises and, tuning up all the stuff we're doing. And Frank comes over to me and says, I just want to point out to you how important you are right now. You've just proved to them that they can be in this group. And, yeah, 17 years old. I mean, man, that was, over 20 years ago. And, I'm still remembering just that one moment.
I don't want to depress you, but that was closer to 30 years ago than 20 years ago, Doc.
Oh, dang. 17. No, if I go down, I'm closer to 37 than I am to. Oh, I guess I'm not. Oh man.
I'll give you a minute to do that math.
What happened? Well, in my mind, I'm still 16, so you can tell by my sense of humor. so what you just spoke to was the passing of it along, right? One of our basketball players one time got into a little bit of trouble in a game, and it was because he cursed at a ref, and our administrators came to the conclusion he should be suspended for 2 games. And who knows what happens, right? Bad calls, elbows to the face, all the things that happen in a basketball game that lead you to cursing at a ref, right? And so he was definitely kind of like wound up thinking about like why it wasn't fair, wasn't the right thing to suspend him for 2 games. And what I said to him was, that suspension's not for you. That suspension's for every kid watching you that wants to be where you are. And if you do that, you curse at a ref, they're going to hit a ref. So let's take it the other direction. And let's think about it in terms of they understand consequences a little bit more now. And now we can work on, here's what might be an alternate choice in that moment. And then maybe they'll take that a few steps farther when it's their turn. Something like that. And so, through my pursuits of writing music and not understanding why, if you have straight eighth notes, there's one attitude towards the music. And then if you have swung eighth notes, there's a whole different attitude towards the music. It doesn't even make any sense because of all the evidence we have of Baroque styles that swing and just on and on and on and on. It doesn't make any sense unless you get to the core of what was actually being said, that the social practices around the music is what we're trying to keep out, not necessarily the literal use of time. We don't want the audiences mixing. We don't want to offend the people who are already paying for our tickets and our subscriptions and whatever else. And it leads me to have the thought that I would hate to think that we're going to perpetuate, the concert hall as a value, kind of a value proposition, that we're going to create value more on who we keep out than who we let in. That is just despicable in my opinion. And I hope that we all can take a real look at that when it's happening, to make sure that it's not brown folks only in the building because they're opening the door for you or serving your coffee or sweeping up after you or something like that. Not able to have access to the seats and watch the performances, listen to the performances, not able to go into the systems and work their way up to become a world-class performer, and then they'll never even be on the stage. All the lessons, all the instrument repairs and procuring of instruments and traveling all around and all the things we need to do to get to a certain level. And then on the flip of that, I also don't want to put it in some system where the avalanche of, well, you're only here because we put all these systems in place so that you could get a leg up. You didn't actually earn it. I was so proud to find out that my great-grandfather graduated Yale 100 years before me. The whole time I was there, I had no idea I was legacy, and that probably did me some favors, but it also helped to know it because anytime I'd get the least little hint of why I was able to get in there, and it's like nobody knew when I was applying to the School of Music that I was legacy there, but there's something in the spiritual energy where it's like it felt natural because my literal direct ancestor had done it, and specifically at Yale, he was in the School of Divinity. That is sort of the School of Music has sort of a lineage through that, the Institute of Sacred Music and then the School of Music. There's a kind of an evolution there. So in some respects, I went to the same college as my great grandfather also, and so yeah, possibly somewhere someone in there might have had that as a thought, but my experience, what I perceived was it was because of my playing, it was because of my grades, it was because of my connection to Toby Hanks through working at Manhattan School of Music, and he knew I was going to be up for the task. It could possibly be because of my 3.7 grade point average in undergrad, and it could be maybe some evidence that my 3.89 at Yale, that maybe it wasn't because of how I looked that I was going to be able to be there and do the work. But I do every now and then have someone in my life who at least asks or questions that or makes a comment about it. Whatever. That's a reflection on them, not on me. It is damn annoying. That's the truth. But whatever. I just keep doing work. And coming soon, one more tuba and turntables tomorrow. It's going to be a sweet one.
Nice. Oh, actually, I want to plug the one that Lance did because it was annoyingly good. I was hoping that it was going to be some crappy euphonium thing that I could be like, really, I really enjoyed the whole 8 minutes I watched, or 8 seconds. But it was awesome. Yeah, it was great. We'll link to that in the show notes because it was deep. It was deep.
Thank you. I was really moved and it's always that way. The videos show up and I'm moved, but that one was just in a different direction. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know what to expect. And then it was just so wonderfully pleasant, and I just love how I could just feel like how much more connected we are, how much more friends we are because of that thoughtfulness and delivery, and it was really, really special, Lance. Thank you so much.
I didn't know what to do with the invitation. I just felt completely incapable of contributing to this project.
That was justified.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all there in the cards. I just was like going over it and thought about doing this, and it could be a comedic whatever, and it could be a ukulele, or I was like, yeah. And then I remember like it just fell out of my head. Like I just like wrote all that crap and then threw it at you at like 11 o'clock at night. I'm not usually up past 9:30. And because I was like, I got to check with Doc because this is not the norm. And I remember like as soon as I hit send, I saw the little ... thing. I was like, uh-oh. But yeah, I was
anticipation.
Yeah.
I love the ... no dots.
No dots.
No dots.
Yeah.
They were gonna come at me, like with honesty, and now they're like, no, I can't say that. Like, wait, or are they just distracted, or are they really mad, or what's happening? Yeah.
I was just honored to be a part of that. I was touched. I'm glad that it's had. I think it cracked about 5,000 views on Facebook.
Yeah, it's got some real great traction, and it's definitely the most viewed of the series.
That's awesome. I the other day there's a couple of Tuba Euphonium Facebook groups that have gotten contentious over the last few days, which I don't. I mean, it's funny the way I put it. It's not funny, but there are a bunch of people who I think it's awesome are speaking up and are speaking up about Black Lives Matter, and there are a bunch of people who are very upset about bringing politics into forums that aren't about politics. And then I think a lot of people who are saying this isn't about politics. And, if this forum isn't the right one, then what is? And if this isn't the time, then when is? And if these aren't the right words, then when is? But I replied with like a long comment to one of them, and which I just remembered. That you were just talking about, first of all, anybody who actually verbalizes out loud questioning how you got into Yale, it's just I can't be shocked anymore at this point in the world history that we happen to be in. I'm just not shocked, but like it's just like unbelievable to me that anybody would actually, well, first would think it, but then would actually decide I need to share these words with this human in front of me right now. Is like, I like to ask myself 3 questions if anything's going to be even remotely contentious. Does this need to be said? Well, that's a no. Does this need to be said by me? That's a no. And does this need to be said by me right this second? That's like 3 huge no's that they just blew through 3 stop signs in a row. But anyway, enough of that soapbox. But, you're talking about how you were legacy and didn't even know it. What I put in this thread was this, that my father grew up in New York State, but right before high school started, he moved to DeLand, Florida. I was like in my 20s when I fully did the math of the fact that my father went to high school and college like during Jim Crow in like inland Florida. I mean, like, so I was like, wait, so you mean like, so there was like separate, drinking fountains? And he was like, yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, like separate entrances. Like, this is my father. He's 79 years old. He's not like, he wouldn't be 110 last month and that he passed away 25 years ago. He's like, he's alive. When he went to the University of Florida in 1960, when he went to the University of Florida, there were a total of 4 black students at the entire university. The first one was in 1958, and there had to be like police presence to get that man in. So there were 4 black students in 1960 when my father was a freshman, which to me means that the odds of my father getting that education if he was black is basically 0, right? I mean, he would not have gotten in there. That education is what got him the jobs plural that ended up paying for multiple new tubas for me, for private lessons. When in 4th grade, when I was just like mysteriously good a month in, I had private lessons starting in like the 5th week of 4th grade because they had the money. That's what paid for Tanglewood, which was very expensive, which is what got me to meet Sam Palafian, who changed the course of my life and my career, which then got me in a position to be able to, when Boston Brass needed an emergency sub, I was like ready, and I had trained with them. That's what got paid for Northwestern. That's what got me the time with Rex Martin and Sam Palafian, et cetera. So even though there was literally 30 years between when my father got into the University of Florida and when I went to Tanglewood, which cost them thousands of dollars, I believe that there is a direct line that can be drawn between those 2 things, being my father being white, which is what got him into the University of Florida, and me getting to meet with and work with Sam. And to me, that's like the very definition of white privilege. That just is. I'm on the record as I worked my ass off, and I continue to, and I've made the best of my opportunities, but that does not negate the fact that a whole lot of things fell for me that would not have necessarily fallen for you. And that doesn't mean that they wouldn't. As you just said, your great-grandfather went to Yale, right? But I don't understand why so many people are threatened by me saying that. And I just think that it's a fact. And I think that that's what, when people talk about things being systemic and the system that's in place. Again, I'm only, what am I? Oh, geez, I'm just old enough. I got to do the math. I'm not 45 yet. I'm 44. Like I ain't that old. I'm old enough that I have to do the math, which is old enough. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, right. I'm not 75, right? I mean, like, and yet I'm still a direct descendant of somebody who grew up and benefited from the Jim Crow system. And, there's just so much work to do. And I just don't understand why so many people get so upset when somebody like me says something like that. I mean, I do know. I just wish that they wouldn't.
I imagine one thing. It takes them. You got to kind of grow into understanding what a system is, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's not, especially one that, I mean, it's one thing when you have your assembly line in your kitchen, getting the dishes from the sink into the dishwasher into the the cabinets, whatever. You can watch all that happen with your eyes. It's a whole other thing when we're talking about stuff happening with people that we never see it happen over years and years and years. You know, the difference between me showing up and doing a recital, playing on a tuba that my mother helped me buy, that I'm surprised she didn't like sell blood or something to make sure I could have it, and then, but we got it, we figured it out and we got it. And then I write the pieces myself. A lot of times just because I'm trying to perform things that I'm going to be very, very interested in. So what better way than, like I said, but then unlocking the composer and allow me to go in the direction I want to go in. And the difference between that and, if there's a piano who it takes a crew of people to move it into place, and then another specialist shows up to maintain it, tune it, work the action and whatever. There's a whole, I don't know, it's just a whole thing that led to the repertoire, and the theory classes all support the repertoire you're learning. The history classes all support the repertoire you're learning, and it all kind of fits together if you're in a certain thread of music. Now, for me in tuba, it was very difficult to find history classes that covered the repertoire that I was actually supposed to be studying and playing. So I had to figure out how to study the Baroque, study the opera, study the the mass or whatever it is we were going through, and then find a way to make it to, in my own mind, into how to connect it to 20th century large orchestra, but it was a lot of work on my own, the same way I was trying to suggest getting my horn on my own, writing my pieces on my own. It all kind of started once I noticed that in the first place. These classes aren't truly set up with the tuba in mind. Maybe they all wanted to have solo pianists, and then they sort of built the school around that. Or maybe they did want to have the orchestra, but it's like the violin soloist, in its exalted position, and then we build the orchestra around that so that the soloist has someone to perform in front of, and then, oh, I guess we should have a tuba player, so let's get some tubas, and we throw them in the back, and then maybe at some point the school gets big enough that then you're like, oh, well, we could have more wind players if we also had an offering of band. Well, I guess that means we need to get saxophones and euphoniums. So it's like if you end up taking out a bunch of loans to play euphonium in a college band, it might not be apparent what to do after that. It's like you can go play in the military band, and those are amazing professional opportunities. Hopefully you can find a way to teach, but it's the true entrepreneur who's going to figure out how to make the most of that euphonium education that really only got put in place because we were trying to make sure the violinist had someone to accompany them. And 3 or 4 steps down the line, just, I don't know, something like that. And that's someone who's got other things going for them that put them well in the mainstream of the system, but that one thing. And then, think about how we treat jazz. I remember hearing about some of my friends as they're getting their professional orchestra jobs that they would never want to admit to their colleagues that they also play jazz, as if it was going to taint them, weaken their position or something like that. The politics have them all trying to stand on the head of a pin or something like that. And so in order to stay on that, you can't take up more space outside of that, or else you risk something, but they'll still leave their concert and go across town to their jam session and play anyway. They just don't want anybody to know about it. And for me, I'm like, I'll live stream the whole thing. I'll be like, no, I would love it if I was sitting on stage, play my last note, and then hold the phone out, and then follow me to my car, cross town, keep it running the whole time, and then see if I can play my first note on time at the next gig. Take the exact same tuba, and then you start to realize why my tuba smells like burgers and beer.
I was so lucky when I studied with Rex Martin. He let me. Well, and I say let me. I don't even remember it being a question. I didn't even ask him. He just didn't prevent me from closing my senior recital with an arrangement I did of a fish tune. And I checked all the boxes for, I mean, there was like a bunch of major rep, like at the, in the beginning, the whole rest of it. And he ran down the stairs to, it's like the stage is at the bottom of the recital hall. And usually he'd go up to the light. He ran down the stairs to like accost me because he was so excited about the fish tune.
Awesome.
Like in particular, he wouldn't shut up. And then I get to grad school, and one of my graduate recitals, with Sam Palafian, I closed and I checked I opened with the Penderecki. I mean, I did a lot of heavy lifting, but I closed with a completely improvised free jazz. I put on like an all white, like hazmat suit looking thing and started the free improv from backstage.
Nice.
And yeah, but that's because that's what I was into.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it's sad. It's sad that that's remarkable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that should not be remarkable because that's what I was into. Like I just and I still am.
I have, things pop back into my head. It's like, here's what I should have said, 10 minutes ago. One, the town is Altenburg. We were in Altenburg, Germany.
Okay.
I don't know why I just remembered that, but I did. Second, I have to give a shout to Mike Parker myself. I had my turntables before I met him, but I cannot, understate how much his warming up with turntables led me to want to put this duet. It's like the duet series together. It's like just seeing him doing that over and over again, it normalized it for me. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that I hadn't used them before like that, but I hadn't used them to make an internet video, and I can't understate how helpful it was to just be reminded that it was possible by Mike Parker.
That's awesome.
So thanks, buddy.
When he and I lived together back in Northwestern, we did listen to Bruckner, but we listened to more hip hop and more Led Zeppelin and more Grateful Dead and more Funkadelic and more like all of that stuff than Bruckner, like by a lot. So anyway. Yeah, there you go. Well, this has been awesome. There's not going to be really a naturally. I don't think there's going to be a perfect endpoint to this because this conversation can just go on forever. But Lance and I wanted to say, and I don't want to make this sound like this is a big deal. It's not. But that the Brass Junkies, that we support Black Lives Matter, and and when I first, if I'm honest, and I posted this on Facebook, when I first heard that a few years ago, in no way did I disagree with it, but I didn't quite understand it. Like when I first heard it, I didn't quite understand it. And then the first time somebody said, what we're saying is Black Lives Matter too, TOO, but Black Lives Matter also. And then I was like, now it 100%, was clear. And that, by the way, does not mean that the branding is not accurate. Like, no, because I didn't understand instantly. Does not. That's one data point. That's me being thick.
My first thought when I saw the slogan, saw that title, was I completely understand why they're saying that, because this is trying to make sure people understand that it's not the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. That was my impression of it as soon as I saw it.
Yeah.
And then it's it's, as always, somewhere embedded in there is, you can even say all lives matter. You can say it, but it's been the experience of many that those words and the actions don't line up at all. So by hearing it again, you get reminded that words and actions don't go together. So I'm going to now ignore that and just look at the actions. Well, I'm not getting very good evidence there either. So anyway, it's completely understandable that somebody would feel like that.
A couple of things. We reached out to Weston Sprott, and we are going to have him on in 2, 3, 5, 6 months, whatever. He and I were joking on Facebook Messenger that, in a week or a month or something, this is all going to quote unquote die down. And then, a lot of people that don't want to think about it much can just go back to normality, which, we need to keep this conversation going. And so we're going to do that. And in the meantime, we've got links. He wrote 2 articles, which are both on the local 802 AFM website, which are called Advancing Inclusion and then Finding a New Path Forward, which are linked to. And then he also recommended 5 books for anybody who is looking to learn more about racism or about racial relations right now, things like that. And so, which are, I actually have not read any of them, and I'm going to read all of them. So, my reading list has been reshuffled, because I've always got a long to-do list there, but some of that has risen up to the very top. So those are all in the show notes, which you can find here in the app that you're listening, or at pedalnotemedia.com if you just click on the Brass Junkies. And then the other thing is that we don't know exactly how this is going to look yet, but we are already in the process of coming up with a commissioning project where we are going to be commissioning Black composers to write music for all of the brass instruments. And we're working with Doc here, and we're leaning on some people that do that kind of thing, commissioning compositions frequently, and we're going to be making that announcement as soon as we can. So, and then the other thing is that Doc's going to join us on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. for the bonus episode for this. We usually record it right after this. We are actually going to we're going to record it live for our Patreon patrons. So for all of you, check your email. Well, you already know the link. It's the same link every week for the Brass Junkies Sunday hang, and this week we're going to be joined by Doc. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Sure.
So
Sunday we'll ask you what you feel about Jens.
Yes, that's
Maybe
exactly.
today. You have a few days to decide.
I just wanted to be sensitive to him at this time. What he's going through.
You're so thoughtful. So I
want to throw in also. I'm doing
Please.
some work with the it's the Association for the Transformation of Musical Academe, with the Black Music Matters book as sort of the guidebook. I'm also very interested in the Yale document on music in city schools and the melding of those two documents, and how that could turn into some course development, some recommendations on hiring practices, and just overall re-envisioning of the paradigm of teaching music. So that's coming.
So cool.
There you go. Yeah, there's lots of resources. Yeah, and this is like, there's no short-term fix that any of us can do, right? I mean, this is like, and yet I'm trying to listen, and I'm trying to educate myself, and I'm just going to try and keep doing that moving forward. And I've done both those things in the past, but it's kind of come and gone, because I get busy, and then, and I gotta keep this on the front burner. Speaking just for myself, I got to keep this on the front burner. It's important.
From my gut, I have the feeling that this education of yourself is going to go better than the other ones.
Are you talking about the first master's degree I dropped out of, or the second master's degree that I dropped out of? I'm not sure. Doc and I have started the same number of degrees. So, yep, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, anyway, all right, Doc, thank you. Thank you very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you. Thank you both so much.
We appreciate you taking the time to chat. You said a lot of thought-provoking stuff. I think Lance learned a lot, and
Huh?
We can't be completely unfunny the whole hour, or people are going to be emailing like, "Are you guys dying? Like, is it okay? Like, like, how much time do you have? Is it like, are we talking weeks or is it months?" So anyway. So Patreon patrons, join us on Sunday morning with Doc at 11 a.m. and keep an eye out for Doc Nick's Talks 2, which is going to be coming to a podcast app near you very soon. And again, welcome to Abby Lannon for officially joining the Pedal Note Media crew. And and come say hi for the Summer Academy if you are looking for something to do in a couple of weeks. And I think that's it. Lance, anything I'm forgetting?
No.
And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dedos and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.